Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another special episode of Dropping Bars being done in collaboration with the Grenada Broadcasting Network. And I have a very special interview for you today. I have the pleasure of interviewing Dr. Tawfik Jelassi, the Assistant Director General of UNESCO. And today we are talking about World Radio Day. And just to give you some insight into who Dr. Jelassi is, before I bring him on, Dr. Tawfik Jelassi is the Assistant Director General for Communication and Information at UNESCO. Dr. Jelassi was appointed UNESCO Assistant Director General for Communication and Information on July 1st, 2021. In this position, he is responsible for the organization's programs on building inclusive knowledge societies, leading digital transformation, strategizing the role of ICT in education, and fostering freedom of expression. Dr. Jelassi holds a PhD in Information Systems from New York University and postgraduate diplomas from the University of Paris. Dr. Jelassi has extensive experience in higher education, scientific research, and information and communication technologies. He held academic, corporate, and government leadership positions in Europe, the USA, and Tunisia, among others. He was also the program director and a professor of strategy and technology management at IMD Business School in Lausanne. Prior to that, he served as Minister of Higher Education, Scientific Research, and Information and Communication Technologies in the Democratic Transition Government of Tunisia. That's from 2014 to 2015. Prior appointment includes being the chairman of the board of directors of Odido Telecom in Tunisia, dean of École Nationale de Pont et Chaussée, and a professor and chairman of the technology management of INSEAD. Dr. Jelassi, welcome to Dropping Bars.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation. Good morning to you and to your listeners.
Amazing. So, Dr. Jelassi, we are talking World Radio Day today, and World Radio Day is February 13th, and I see the objective of World Radio Day principally is to raise awareness among the public and the media regarding the importance of radio, as well as to encourage decision makers to establish and provide access to information through radio, as well as to enhance networking and international cooperation among broadcasters. Now, the theme for the 2023 World Radio Day is Radio and Peace. Can you tell me, why is this theme so important in today for you?
Thank you again for this opportunity. What we know is radio has existed for over a century, and in spite of that, it remains one of the most trusted media in the world. Throughout the years, radio has provided the fastest access to information in real time about matters of public interest. But during the COVID, we saw also radio playing other roles. Example, distance education, in addition to, of course, news feeds and entertainment. Radio now offers a variety of content through various devices and in various formats, including podcasts and multimedia websites. And we see increasingly the gap between traditional media and cutting-edge technologies used for radios. This gap is increasingly being bridged. The theme, back to your question, of this year on radio and peace. This theme reminds us all that radio is a critical pillar for conflict prevention and peace building, especially, of course, when radio is free of political and commercial influence, when it addresses the root causes and the triggers of conflicts, and when it promotes democratic debate, including through a dialogue with the audience. In this context, editorial independence is, of course, critical. because it demonstrates radio stations' ability to deliver news that are free of political, ideological, or commercial influences. And we see that despite the rise of social media and other modern communication technologies enabled by the internet today, radio is still an extremely popular source of information across the world. In a recent survey that UNESCO conducted in 23 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, we see that 6 in 10 respondents to our survey stating that national radio is the most important medium for them. Radio programs are also inexpensive to produce and to broadcast compared to video-based TV broadcasting or cable TV. Radio programs should be included in peace strategies and be actively supported by governments, investors, donors, as well as intergovernmental organizations such as UNESCO.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you mentioned the importance of and using radio for in addressing issues related to conflict and so. Now, what role can you see that radio can play in internal and interstate conflict prevention and peace building? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, in today's fast-paced digital age, adhering to ethical journalism standards has become difficult. To contribute to conflict prevention and peace building, radio must continue to base its programs on high-quality journalism, on verifiable information that bring to the fore issues of public interest. But also, radio programs should hold power to account and assist society in building a better future for all. Professional radios can moderate conflict and tensions, certainly prevent escalation, and facilitate reconciliation and reconstruction talks through relevant programs and independent news reporting. Conflict-sensitive radio practices and solutions journalism are also important for fostering knowledge and increasing understanding amongst populations. It is part of the agenda-setting function of radios and the provision of essential services to bring forward issues of concern, to feature matters that merit attention from authorities and citizens, but also bring to light the roots of conflict, such as inequalities or maybe social tensions in a given country or region. Radio remains an important player to maintain peace, to transit to peace wherever there are conflicts or wars across the world.
And something you mentioned, the rise of the social media, and you mentioned the rise of social media and digital, and we know that radio is like you stated, is one of the longest forms of media that we have, one of the oldest forms of media that we have, and one of the most trusted. With social media today, we see rising like misinformation and disinformation. As a matter of fact, during COVID-19, there was a lot of misinformation, disinformation going around as it relates to COVID and so. So now with the rise of social media and other emerging media, how do you think independent radios can remain relevant and to withstand this onslaught of social media and this rise that we're seeing in misinformation and disinformation locally and worldwide as a result of these emerging technologies?
It's a very important question because what we have been witnessing quite recently, a two phenomena. One, you mentioned it, which is the increasing spread of false content, of misinformation, disinformation, and fake news. On the other hand, we have been also witnessing a shift of advertising revenues from traditional media outlets to internet and digital platforms. And obviously, this decline in revenues had the major consequence for traditional media because, of course, it became much more expensive for them to verify information, to check the quality and the sources of the news they have. And of course, the issue became the economic viability of traditional media in the face of 3/4 of advertising revenues moving to internet-based platforms. So we believe at UNESCO that investing in fact-checking, investing in investigative journalism, as well as in a rigorous source and content check, these are important practices that radio broadcasters use and need to continue using to combat the rise of mis and disinformation. But also, this is from a supply point of view. The radio broadcasters that supply information to their audiences. But there is also a requirement from the demand side, from the users and the consumers of information that need nowadays to be media and information literate. We need to equip them, to train them, to develop a critical mindset in order for them to really be able to differentiate between verifiable and therefore believable information and news and false content and fake news. And we have this, it's not a slogan, it's an approach that we use at UNESCO. We say, especially for those news, this social media, we say, click wisely and think critically. We need to develop that critical mindset. It is an important part of making audiences and listeners media and information literate in today's increasingly digitally impacted media landscape.
And that's amazing. I'm glad you mentioned that. And so, seeing that radio in the midst of all the digital and emerging technology is so important to UNESCO. Dr. Jelassi, can you just share like some of the ways in which UNESCO supports radio development and its sustainability, globally?
Yes, UNESCO has been undertaking a number of activities, programs, projects, and initiatives which aim at supporting radios through capacity building for enhanced professionalism, but also have been working with the member states and third parties to put in place or to update legislation and regulation, but also to assist traditional media outlets in the face of this economic media viability issue, but also assist them in transiting to the new digital world, the digital landscape, while keeping, of course, their editorial independence. UNESCO very specifically highlights the importance of independent radios as a pillar, as I said earlier, for conflict prevention and peacebuilding. And we do believe that independent radios must be regarded as an essential component of stability and peace. And we support this capacity building, this training of duty bearers of radio-related issues, as well as the training of grassroots radio broadcasters. UNESCO will remain a strong supporter for media pluralism. In this regard, we have focused especially on promoting community radios as a valuable complement to public service and commercial radios. Community radios, we know they are not-for-profit stations, typically owned by community members, with programming based very much on community access and participation in broadcasting. I do believe this type of radio reflects the unique interests and needs of its listeners, who are very much frequently voiceless members of society, sometimes marginalized populations, or hard-to-reach rural groups or language minorities. The fact that community radios focus on local needs does not imply that their programs are of lower quality than those produced by mainstream media. Community radios are indeed high quality, offer competitive programs that represent their community's concerns, which are often overlooked by mainstream media. Community radios cut through the lack of diversity in editorial content that can occur when radio frequencies are monopolized or oligopolized. But since the 1980s, UNESCO has assisted countries all over the world in ensuring the respect, but also in supporting legal recognition for community radios, as well as providing it with a legal framework that allows it to reach its full potential. And before concluding, I would like to say that one of the most important missions of UNESCO has all along been to promote the free flow of ideas through word and image. And obviously, when we say promote the free flow of ideas through word and image, of course, radios and community radios are an integral part of our mission and our mandate at UNESCO, and will continue to support and to work with radios and community radios down the road.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Jelassi. Bars Nation, we have been speaking with Dr. Tawfik Jelassi. And remember, on February 13th, we are celebrating World Radio Day. Dr. Jelassi, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us about the importance of radio, community radio. And is there any final bit of information you want to share specifically about World Radio Day?
No, my final word is obviously to wish all radio stations all over the world, but also your audiences and your various listeners, a happy World Radio Day 2023.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jelassi, and thank you to everyone for who made this interview possible, the entire team at UNESCO, Grenada Broadcasting Network, Ms. Odette Campbell and team. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Dropping Bars. Like I said, we have been speaking with Dr. Tawfik Jelassi, UNESCO's Assistant Director General. Dr. Jelassi, again, thank you so much for taking the time off your day to speak with us. And we hope I wish everyone listening, again, like you said, a happy World Radio Day on February 13th. And I know that we'll continue to see the continued importance of radio in as part of the overall peace building effort worldwide, as this year's theme states, it's radio and peace. So thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of Dropping Bars, and I will see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.